takers, and welcome back to another one of my videos. Today we are going to be comparing the 121B Chinese Tier 10 Premium Medium Tank to the Object 140 and the T62A, along with some Ace Tanker gameplay. So, starting off, you can see that the damage per minute of the 121B is 3,324, which is pretty good, but it is nowhere good compared to the 3,591 that the Object 140 and the 62 have. The penetration, however, is a bit better than the 140 at being 245 compared to the 140's 240, but the 62A has the same at 245. The heat penetration across all these tanks are the same in the 121B and 62A at being 300, and the Object 140 has 290. One other little fact is that the Object 140 has AP rounds instead of APCR, so that does help it out in something called shell normalization. The rate of fire, since the alpha damage on the 121B is 350 and the Object 140 and 62 are 310, is a little bit slower at 9.5 rounds a minute compared to the 11.5 the Object and 62 get. But because of that, the reload is also 6.3 seconds compared to the 5.18 the 62 and 140 have. The shell velocity is very good on the 121B at 1,478, which is almost identical to the 140 and the 62A at 1,535. The aiming time is also very good at being on par with the T62A of 1.36. The 140 is a lot worse at being 1.81. The dispersion also on the 140 is worse, where the 121B has 0.308 and the 62A has an amazing 0.272. The on-movement turret rotation is 0.14, which makes the other tanks look way better at being 0.08 and 0.1. The depression is 6 degrees, which is the same as the Object, but the 62A only has 5, which is one of the major flaws of that tank. The speed forwards is also the fastest at 56, which is only 1 faster than the 140's 55. However, the 62A actually only goes 50, which is very surprising, because they all have the same horsepower. Because of that, the 62A actually has a very good power to weight ratio, just because it has a less speed, but the same amount of horsepower. The 121B, 140, and 62A have about all the same stats on power to weight, horsepower, and terrain resistance. The traverse speed is 50 degrees on the 121B, 54 on the 140, and 56 on the 62A. The credit coefficient is not yet posted for the 121B, but it is pretty decent. It would probably earn about 100% if they did post it. And the view range of all of these tanks are exactly the same at 274, which is very good. And the hit points is actually the lowest at being 1800 compared to the 140's 1850 and the 62A's 1900. It also weighs the most at being 37 tons compared to the 140's 35 and the 62A's 36. The hull armor on this tank is where it stands out at being 120, which is just amazing compared to the 140's 100 and the 62A's 102. The turn armor is also very good, as you can see it is the same as the 140 and the 62A. The 140's turn is a little bit weaker, as I will show you in Armor Inspector though. And the relative win rate is actually much higher in the 121B, even though only 320 people have played it. It still has a 55.7% win rate. The 140 is very close at 55.1, but the 62A actually falls behind at 53.22, which I didn't know. The average damage is also higher in the 121B than the 140 and the 62A. And after I've been looking at all these things, the T62A actually has the least amount of everything compared to the 121B and 140, which is very surprising to me. Now let's take a look at the armor. So, you can see directly on the front, its hull doesn't look very good, but on closer inspection, it's actually about 200 to 220 thick, which is very strong. Judging that if you're using that 6 degrees of gun depression the tank gets, that hull is going up to 240 and all the way up to 255. And not to mention, if you were to angle it, its side is still impenetrable, and the front becomes about 260 to 270, able to bounce very big rounds. So this tank actually has a very good hull. Another thing that this tank has, which is very strong, is the turret, which some people underestimate. This turret is able to bounce pretty much anything thrown at it. Even when a Object 140 is shooting heat, you can see it's that hard to go through. And these little cupolas, even the middle of it, is still 228 thick. As you can see, that's a very hard target to hit, judging that the edges of the cupola are 330. And this cupola over here is even worth a shot. So the cupolas aren't even easy to pen on this tank. And since it's so low down, it could just hit you, back up. It has an amazing aiming time. One weakness is the side armor of the tank, as the whole side is only 80. And its tracks are fairly big, so it's very easy to track the tank. The rear is also pretty weak, and only being 61. However, the turret is pretty thick, so do not try to HE the rear of the turret. Now, to show you just how weak the 140's turret is in comparison, you could see that the 140's turret is just able to go through everywhere on the front. Comparing that to the 121B, it is just such a big difference, as you can see. So you really don't want to mess with the 121B. But enough with this, let's get stuck into some Ace Taker gameplay. Alright, the first replay we have is on Naval Frontier, and we are running the 121B with the awesome legendary camo, as you can see. And it gives you, it pretty much turns your tank black and gold, and it puts a dragon on the back of it that leads all the way to the front. And I do think that this camo was a great idea, that Wargaming added it. And I hope they continue to release awesome camouflages like this in the future. But now straight to the gameplay. You can see I'm pushing up to this bush, which I normally do in most of my mediums on Naval Frontier. I'm going to try and spot the heavies. I noticed they had a mouse, and he decides to push across B, so I'm going to put some pressure on him. Wanted to get that leopard, but I instead got another shot to that mouse as he over-angled his sides. I do see an E100 at the top, so I do want to be careful, because if that E100 pulls out, he's going to be able to hit me for 600 damage from crew members, but I do manage to get that shot in that leopard, which is pretty nice. I'm waiting for that E100 to pull out. Shoots my friend, so I'm going to snap a shell into him. He repairs his track, and the accuracy on this tank, as you will see, is not the greatest. Even though Wargaming did buff the dispersion, its accuracy still isn't the best. As you will see, the first heat round bounces, and I only keep 10 heat rounds on this tank because it doesn't have a great ammunition supply. Right now, one heat round has bounced and one has penned, and it's going to get a lot worse, as you'll see. Another heat round bounces, so that's 2 bounces and 1 pen. And this isn't super far away, this is only 260 meters. But right now we're 50-50, 2 bounces, 2 pens. And that one misses, that's 3 bounces, 2 pens. And now it's 4 bounces, 2 pens. And now it's going to be freaking 5 bounces and 2 pens, which is just, it's absurd how inaccurate this gun can be. And then you'll see it's just odd because now the next 3 shells are going to go right through without any problems. Like, 50 of them bounce though, 50%. So like, it's not the best ratio if you have a 50% hit rate. If I'd been in an Object 140 or a T62A, I probably would have been able to pen all of my shells, or at least 90% on that E100's turret, and gone through all of them. But because of that, now we have hit 3,000 damage. We are out of heat rounds, which is a problem, judging that they do have a mouse on their team, and we are going to encounter him. I see this leopard, so I'm going to load up some HE. And I'm going to try and hit him in the side, but you can see it hit him just in the front. Went a little bit off. But the leopard's going to push to the side. I'm going to get him for 430, so I'll take it. And I'm expecting the C-100 to be around the corner. Is he? Yes, he is. I'm going to snap a shell right into his hull. That T-54, or T-55A, actually pens him. Now that we've got no heat left, we've got a bit of a problem here, because I can't really pen this mouse. But fortunately, he's not using it correctly, and he's not angling his turret. So I can just pen right through his cheeks. And now that he is shot, I'm going to push on him. Try to get a little snapshot there, but it doesn't work. And I snap on my fast reloader, get behind him, and now I'm going to put the pain on this mouse. As the amazing reload, I'm just going to pound him to death and maul each shot into him. As you can see, he can't do anything to me. He does actually manage to get that shot in, which did impress me, but he still didn't win anything. But you can see how good this gun is when it's in a close combat situation. It's able to put the pressure on and able to do it well. Like 5.371 damage, 60,000 credits. We did get the mastery, and we did get, the reason we have 60,000 credits is, if you can see in the corner, we did actually do a mission for 40,000 credits, so it actually only earned 20,000. But you can see that I did 5.3 damage, 5.3 thousand, 1,445 experience, which is very high. And we just completely murdered everybody against us. And people can't do anything against this tank sometimes because it has such a high damage per minute. And the turret armor's good, and it actually has decent gun depression. And it makes this tank a very good balanced fighting machine. The only problem I would say is the dispersion. But let's get stuck into that second replay. Now, the second replay we have is on Castilla, and we are in Supremacy. And I have stated in older videos that I really don't like Supremacy that much, just because you have to push in certain areas, and if you don't cap bases, then you'll lose. It's not more of a skill for me, it's more like you have to cap the base, and it's more like team, and sometimes your team doesn't really cooperate well, they won't go the correct ways, and yeah. But ignoring that, I'm going to be using the 121B with that awesome camo again, and I am going to be pushing towards base A, and I don't really cap the Supremacy bases, I try to get the shots in for the team, so I am going to try and push up that hill, but I spot this leopard and get the luckiest shot I'd ever had in a while, because that flew right through his turret, past that rock. You can see the dispersion isn't terrible on the move at medium ranges, just not when you're at far ranges. I'm going to slam an HE into that bat chat, actually low roll him with an HE, which was surprising, but my second shell makes up for it, lighting him on fire. 700, 800 damage, 864 damage. Gonna HE him again for 415. You can see that this tank's damage per minute is just so good. It can do the pain and do it well. As you can see, I'm just gonna slap an HE on that bat chat. Now I do see the size 7, and I do think the i7 side armor is still insane. As you can see, I bounced a shot on the exact sides of that i7. Luckily, the second one goes through, but just the fact that an i7 can bounce the sides of a 121B shell, even my heat round bounces off his side, and he's able to put a shell into me, light me on fire. Instead, I'm going to put one right through his upper plate, as you can see, because apparently his side is too good for me. Gonna try and jump here. And what I was planning here is he was going to drive up and I was going to shoot a shell into his lower plate, but unlucky for me, I by accidentally tapped the fire button on my iPad screen, and now that gives the IS-7 a push on me, and pretty much you guys think I was even thinking I was going to die here, but luckily I actually had a nice teammate here, the E50M, rams that IS-7 for 803. Distracts him, and I actually managed to snap the final shell into his lower plate on the sides. And already we're at 3.3 thousand damage, and we're going to push back up the hill, which I originally wanted to go to. And right now it is a 5 versus 3, but it does actually get very close, as you'll see. because they do have a full health T-30, and you can see again the dispersion at far distances is not the best, as that shell perfectly aimed in right on the middle of that T-30's hull just misses in plain sight. But the T-30 is a threat to me, but he is running the stock gun, I'm pretty sure, so I'm not going to be worried about him. I'm going to be pushing on this AMX, who is a one-shot, and he really can't one-shot me, even if he wants to, because he'd have to get a max roll to do 400 damage, and I'm willing to take that risk. So I'm going to be trying and clear that AMX, but you'll see what happens about him later. Do spot that T-30 though, and with the American weak sides, I snap shell right in. It says I'm detected. Back up. Make sure he can't hit me. Pull back out. He is not able to be hit anymore, and they still do have a full health E100. And now it's 3-4, and now it's 3-3, and they're actually doing very well. And judging that our mediums only have, you know, not even full health, we're not on the better end of the stick here. Like, our mediums got 900 and 900 health. That's some. Then their 1E100 couldn't just hold all of us off. The only problem they have is that T-30. If that E100 just stays still and keeps those bases good, they're fine. Problem is this AMX decides to push up on me. I managed to use that 6 degrees of gun depression, snap a shell right into the side of him. And I don't really know what he was thinking there, because even if he had flanked me, that still wouldn't have gone well. And you can see in the top I say, you take the shot and we'll rush. Because he has enough health to actually take a shot. As you can see, he does exactly what I say. And now we are going to just put the pain on this E100 as we slam shell into shell right through him. Get another one. Unfortunately, that E100 does manage to get the shot through, but my teammate, the T-30, kills their T-30, and I slam the final shell right into the bottom of that E100's hull. You can see we did finish this game with 5.4 thousand damage. I do get the mastery. And you can see I earned about the same amount of credits I did last game without that mission, at around 20,000 credits. So you can see that when you do well in this tank, it does earn some credits. But again, if I did well in an I-7, I'd probably earn more credits than 18,000. If I did well in an E100, I'd earn more credits than 18,000. So really, for 20,000 gold, it's not really you're buying a premium tank, it's more you're just buying a tier 10. So if you don't have a tier 10, you can buy it, but people aren't going to be happy. And if you do own a bunch of tier 10s, just buy it for fun, because it is a great tank. As you can see, I only played about 10 games in it, and I managed to get 2 masteries. And I managed to get like a 4K mastery. This tank isn't played very much. You can see I did 21 shots fired, 19 of them hit, and only 16 pens. So you can see that maybe 75% of them go through, leaving that 25% due to dispersion or inaccuracy. But some of those bounces were from the IS-7, as you can see those too. I did do 5.4k damage though, so that is good for the payout. As you can see though on credits, it did earn 88,000, but vehicle repairs and ammunition was 32,000, consumables were 14,000, provisions were 14,000. It lowers your credits so much. Now, if you don't run provisions, you will gain more credits, but you'll also do less damage and have less of a chance to fight other people. But we did earn a total of 1,437 experience, which was less than the other game, which was very surprising to me. But I do want you guys to see that amazing camo. Just look at this camo on the tank. It's such a good looking tank. Its turret is very strong. Overall, it is great. The only problem with this tank is that to get that camouflage, you need to go to bundles, and you need to purchase vanilla boxes of candy, and get lucky and win that right there, the 121B Invincible camo, which is a pain because you have to spend more money and you don't know if you're going to get it guaranteed. But I hope you guys liked my review on the 121B. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.